Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending this morning's webcast. This morning we'll be talking about MapGuide Enterprise 2010, as well as MapGuide Studio, the authoring tool that you'll use to build a MapGuide Enterprise site. So let's go ahead and get right to it. We've got quite a bit to cover today, and I imagine there'll be some questions, so I want to leave some time for that as well. So as I mentioned, today's webcast is going to revolve around MapGuide Enterprise and MapGuide Studio, the authoring tool that we'll use to author our website. So we're going to take several sources of data. I don't know if anybody was able to attend the last webcast, but this webcast builds on it in that in the last webcast we built out and did some analysis on some fire response in Map3D. Now we're going to take that information and we're going to serve it out via a website using the MapGuide Enterprise and MapGuide Studio to author that website. So let's get right to the demo here. I'm going to start out, let's talk a little bit about, for those of you that might not have been able to attend last month's webcast. By the way, that was recorded, so it's available, should be available on our website if you would like to participate and watch that. But this is basically the result of the last webcast in Map3D. So we were able to combine multiple sources of data. You can see over here we did some fire analysis. Based on hydrants, we were able to come up with some parcels at risk. So you can see here yellow. Some of these parcels are at risk, and that means they don't have fire hydrant coverage that they should, that's mandated by this municipality. So we're going to take this data now, we're going to share it out. It might be with legislative bodies, it might be with the public, but we're going to share it via a website so that many people can access and view this data. So we're going to build this very same look and feel into a website. Go ahead and let's close down Map for the time being. And so let's start to build this out. So what we want to do is, I'm going to go ahead and start my MapGuide Studio. And again, MapGuide Studio is the tool that you use to author this website. It allows you to bring together sources of data, stylize that data, and really define how the map is going to look before you publish it out to this internet site. MapGuide Studio is set up very nicely in that it's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 step process. You'll see the first step, we need to find some data. So build some data into this website. The second step is building layers from that data. Then we'll make a map, and once the map is done, we will place that map on the internet. So here's my MapGuide site right here, you see at the top, and it's on the local, it's on my local computer, it's not actually on a server, so that's why we have the local address here. I'm just going to create a new folder to put all this data in. It's a good idea to be very structured because you're going to get a lot of load procedures and layers and maps all coming together to produce this one web layout. So being very structured here in the way you put this together will help in the future as you start to bring that map together. So let's call this fire response. So that's the folder we'll start to put our data in. Now there's going to be a couple other things that I'm going to create right away. So I'm going to build some folders under this. So right away I'm going to build a new load procedure that will allow me to load external data into this. So I want to create a folder to put those load procedures in. I'm also going to create a map, so I'll build a folder just right off the top, kind of an empty structure here. And then finally, the last thing we'll end up with is a web layout that we can publish to the internet. So let's go ahead and start. Let's start by number one. We're at the top of the list here. We need to find some data. Now there are a couple ways we can load this data. We can connect to external data, or we can build a load procedure that will load that data into the MapGuide repository. And that's the way we're going to go. We want this data we load it onto the MapGuide repository. Things function a little bit faster. As that data is updated, maybe through further analysis on the map side, you can script these load procedures and run them so at intervals every night or every week or whenever you need to, you can update this data. I'm going to build a new load procedure here. Let's do it this way. So a new load procedure. So basically I need to find some data that I want to load. So in this case, let me make sure I'm looking in the right place. Autodesk Sumo shape. This looks like what I want. So there's the shape file I want to load, some file-based data that I want to load and make part of this web layout. I'm going to open this up. There's the path to my file. The destination, as you can see, it's putting it into a library called Fire Response Load Procedure. The data itself, it will build a folder on the fly called Data, and it will also create a layer from that data and put it in a folder called Layers. So let's go ahead and load this data and see what we get. So it's going to crank away for a moment. And I put these two folders at the wrong level, so I'm just going to drag and drop them where I want them. Trying not to make that mistake again. Oops. So I want that data in the layers folder at the fire response level, not under my load procedure. So here's my new load procedure. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Ask where I want to put it. Make sure I'm in fire response, load procedure. And this load procedure is loading parcels in a shapefile format. So I'll name it appropriately. So now under my load procedure, there's my parcels. Under my data layer, there's that parcel layer of data. And it built a layer for me that we can actually view. Let's see what's going on here. So this is looking to where I originally loaded that under load procedure. Just need to repath that. So there we go. So now I can refresh this view and get a graphical look at what that source of data looks like. So there are my layers. I'm sorry, there's my parcels. And you've got some zoom tools. It's really a what you see is what you get kind of interface. This is very much how it's going to appear and function when I actually publish this out to a website. Right now, I'm still in MapGuide Studio. I'm authoring my website right now. But when we actually publish, this is very much of what you see is what you're going to get. So let's do a little more work on this layer. When these layers are, or when a particular parcel is selected in our web layout, do we want to show them any information? What will be displayed as far as attribute information goes? So let's say we want to show some of these properties here. And you can see there's a long list of them. Perhaps we want to see the address, maybe the area of the parcel. See what else we've got here that's interesting. Maybe the owner name. There are multiple owners. We'll see. So just setting up here what will be displayed when a parcel is selected in a web layout as far as attributes go. Also, let's build a tooltip so that when we mouse over these parcels, we get a little flyout, a little tooltip that gives us a quick information. So let's build this tooltip. And we'll make it fairly simple here. let's say that we want the address. When we mouse over a parcel, we want the address. So under properties, it's, again, looking into this source of data, let's take the address. And let's even do this a little bit neater here. I'm going to back up here, and we'll use a text function. We'll concatenate a text property, and here I'm just going to say, let's see here, address is, and then here we want to grab a property, validate this. So the expression is valid, so this is what we're going to get as our tooltip. Address is, and then it's going to find the address for that particular property. So there's our tooltip. We're showing some information when these particular parcels are selected. So this layer of data is pretty well set up. So I'm going to go ahead and save what I've done here. So let's add a few more layers of data, and then we can get onto an actual layout here. For some reason it's not finding the address. You'll notice here I'm just testing out what I've done. Let's zoom up here. I hover, oh, there we go. So it's finding the address. Address is, so there's the tooltip I built. So everything is working. So let's get some more data. So this means another load procedure for fire response. So let's load some more data. In this case, we're not looking for our shapefile. Let's look for some of the analysis that we did. So we did some analysis, and we came up with a new layer of data that we called parcels at risk. So these are the parcels that are at risk, not covered by fire hydrants the way they should be. So let's open this layer of data up. And again, pay a little more attention to where my data and my layers folders are. So this looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and load this data. So we've got a couple new load procedures and a new layer of data. So let's just save this load procedure. And let's take a look at the layer of data. So let's configure what our parcels at risk will look like. So a quick preview here. There are the results of our analysis, the parcels at risk. Not interested in a tooltip here. We really just want this for display. So I'm going to zoom down here, scroll down here a little bit in my edit window. And I'm going to edit the style here. So I'm going to I want the fill pattern to be solid. I want the foreground color to be yellow, and the line around this to be red. So they kind of stand out. These are the parcels at risk. We want this to stand out a little bit. So I'll say OK there. And let's save this. And refresh our data. Just to, again, what you see is what you get. So there we go. We've stylized these parcels to be yellow with a red boundary. So we're starting to come together here. We've got some sources of data. Let's get just a couple more here. We've got the fire hydrants out there. So let's load the fire hydrants. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and load that resource. And take a look at this layer of data. So there are our fire hydrants. Again, let's do a little bit of stylization here. Perhaps we want our fire hydrants to be, let's make them red. quick refresh just to see what we're going to get. So there are fire hydrants displayed in red. Now we can be a little more fancy with that. We can load blocks and things like that and build labels. But right now we're looking for just a pretty simple interface that we can get to a web layout here in a reasonable amount of time. One more load procedure here. And in this case we want the fire zones. Let's load this source of data. So there are our 3 fire zones, north, central, and south. Again, a quick stylization of this data. Perhaps this is not. Yep, this is the one we want. Let's we'll add complete transparency here, so the foreground color won't matter. The line pattern, let's go with a dashed line. Let's change the color to a purple color. So there are our fire zones. We're going to get an outline of our fire zones. So we've got several sources of data here. Let's put these together into a map, and then from that map we can push this to a web layout. So I'm going to create a new map. And let's add some layers of data to this new map. So we want, let's add our parcels at risk, hydrants, and fire zone layers to make this map. So let's refresh this and see what we're going to get here. So I noticed that some of the settings that I've made aren't taking effect. My hydrants are black, my fire zones aren't purple. So what I need to do is I look up here at some of this work I've done, and I notice that I haven't saved those changes. And I see that I haven't saved those changes because they have a little asterisk. So for instance, this load procedure that's loading my hydrants hasn't been saved yet. So I have a little housekeeping here to do. So I'm going to save this. This is the hydrant load procedure. And it's an SDF file. I've got the hydrant layer of data. I made these changes to this file, but I didn't actually save it. So I want to save that layer of data. I have another load procedure where I loaded my fire zones. I didn't take the time to save that, so I need to do that now. And this again is an SDF file as well. Did a little work on the fire zone layer, neglected to save it, so I'll make that. Now if I come to my new map, unload a couple of these layers. Fire zone, I'll get rid of that. Hydrant. And let's reload those layers just to make sure we get the saved version. So I want hydrant. And I also want fire zones. So let's refresh our map now. It's looking a little bit better. I'm seeing some colors there that I expect. I also suspect that I may have some draw order issues. Let's just zoom up here on a little bit of this. So there's my fire zone with the dashed line. I see my parcels. I have a feeling that those parcels are laying over the top of my parcels at risk. So what I need to do is take care of the draw over of some of this. So let's see, I want parcels at risk to draw above parcels. I want hydrants to draw on top of everything. And let's put fire zones right below hydrants. Refresh this data. That looks a little bit better. So I can zoom up here in a little section of this and see what we're getting. So we're seeing some parcels at risk, we're seeing some hydrants, we're seeing our parcels. As I would expect, when I mouse over a parcel, I get a tooltip that flies out, tells me the address. If I selected everything there, do that. So what that did was it actually selected my fire zone. So that just tells me that I've got a little more housekeeping to do. And that housekeeping is going to be deciding which of these layers are actually selectable. So let's see, hydrants, I don't want features on this layer to be selected. Fire zones, I don't want features on those layers to be selected. Parcels at risk, the only feature that I want to be selectable is the actual parcels layer with all the parcels. So let's refresh this now and see if I can zoom up here and select the parcel and get a little bit of feedback. Zoom in here real quick. And select the parcel. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So on my selection tab, I see there are the properties that I chose to be selected or to be visible when one of these parcels is selected. So I'm seeing the address, the area of that parcel, the owner name. In this particular case, there is no second owner name. So everything is performing as I would expect. We've taken care of most of the housekeeping here. So at this point, we're now ready to take this map that we've built and save this. We'll move on. So I'm in the right place. And we'll call this our fire response map. So make sure that's saved. Now that that map is saved, I can publish this out to a web layout. So I'm going to build a new web layout. Let's build a flexible web layout. So we need to first define the map resource used. There's our fire response map resource we built. A lot of setup to go into here. We won't go into all of it, but again, this is really a what you see is what you get interface. And make this down a little bit. So we want to use the map's initial view. Let's go ahead and refresh this and see all the things we're going to get there. So this is really what the web layout will look like. I'm just going to jump here to a full preview so we don't have to worry about any of the editing things. Let's let this refresh really quickly here. So there we go. So in this interface here, this interface that we're looking in here, this is really how our web layout's going to look by default. So we get a bunch of tools for free as well. You'll notice that we've customized or stylized the layers to look and feel the way we want. We've got selection tools, pan, zoom tools. All this for free. We can build buffers. We can measure distances. Again, this all for free to this web layout. We can turn layers of data on and off. Maybe I don't want to see the hydrants or the fire zones right now. I can toggle those layers of data on and off. I didn't need to push the refresh button. So toggle those layers of data on and off. I can select, zoom in here, grab a parcel, and I see my information here for the selection of that parcel. When I mouse over a parcel, I get the tooltip that I built. It follows my pointer around. So very easy to build this web layout, very handy, very much a what you see is what you get. Zoom to the extent of this, let it refresh. So we're still in our MapGuide Studio interface. When we actually want to see this in a web layout, let me go ahead and save this new web layout. I built a folder for it here. Call it Fire Response, and I'll save that in my web layout folder. So again, you'll notice very structured setup over here. I could have put all this data at one level, but I would have data mixed in with layers, mixed in with load procedures in the map, and finally the web layout. It would all be kind of mishmashed together. So let's just jump back to the full edit screen, and you'll notice that as I'm building this web layout, it's building for me. It builds a URL, and this is the URL that I will share with people that I want to see, that I want this to be able to view this. So I would punch this button that says Launch in Viewer, but my Vista is giving me problems with launching internet pages from Studio right now. I'm not sure why. I couldn't figure it out this morning. So I'm just going to copy this and start an Internet Explorer page myself. Paste that in, and I'll be able to launch that website, log into it, and now I'm actually in Internet Explorer. I could be in Mozilla Firefox as well, and now I'm seeing a real web layout built here in about a half an hour with several sources of data, all configured to perform the way I want. So here, this is the URL you would share. You've got the ability to toggle on and off layers of data. Our tooltips work as we mouse over different parcels. I can select parcels, get information, all through a website built in about a half an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and open the phone lines for questions now, and I'll entertain some questions on this, and we'll see if we can't get some dialogue going here. So let me unmute the phones here. Okay, can everybody out there still hear me? All right, that's better. So everybody should be unmuted at this point. So if there are any questions out there, I'll go ahead and entertain those right now.